the Glendale High School Choir to perform the U.S. and Armenian national anthems.
Good evening, everyone. What a great version of the national anthems by the Glendale High School Choir. Welcome all to the 13th annual City of Glendale Armenian Genocide Commemorative event. We've got a great program for you this evening, but we have many dignitaries and VIPs in the audience that I'd like to introduce. We have the Very Reverend Dajat Yagdemian, the Very Reverend Muron Aznegyan, Bishop Michael Muradian, Reverend Henry Shanazarian. From the Republic of Armenia, we have the Deputy Consul Artak Galustian. From Washington, we have our very own Congressman Adam Schiff. Representing us from Sacramento, From Sacramento, we have our Assemblyman, Michael Gatto. Former Assemblyman, Anthony Portantino. From the City of Glendale, we have our Mayor, Zare Sinanyan. Councilmember Laura Friedman. My co-chair for tonight's event, who will be joining me on the podium just a bit later, Councilmember Frank Quintero. We have our City Treasurer, Rafi Manoukian. From the Glendale Unified School District, on the Board of Trustees, we have Niari Nahapetian, Mary Boger, Greg Krikorian, Christine Walters, and Dr. Armina Garbetian. And I also think I saw the Superintendent, Dr. Richard Sheehan, here in the audience. From our Glendale Community College Board of Trustees, Ann Ransford, Dr. Vahe Perumian, Dr. Armine Hagopian, David Avagian, and Tony Tartaglia. Our city staff is led by our city manager, Scott Ochoa, our city attorney, Michael Garcia, our assistant city manager, Yasmin Beers, our deputy city manager, John Taktalian, our deputy police chief, Carl Povlovitis, and our fire chief, Harold Scoggins. And I would like to welcome up Congressman Adam Schiff. I know he had several events today, Montebello, Hollywood. I'm not sure if he made it to the Turkish consulate, but Adam Schiff, our congressman, has been a fighter and a leader in Congress to get recognition for the Armenian genocide by way of a resolution, and he fights every year for that. He even spoke Armenian on the floor of the House last year. I present to you our representative, Adam Schiff.
Ara, thank you very much. It's a great honor to join you today. This afternoon at Montebello, a woman told me that her father was a survivor of the genocide. She described how her father as a child had witnessed his own mother being beheaded by gendarmes for wanting to provide water to his sister. Pain, she told me, can be passed down among generations. How true that is. But not only pain, responsibility too passes down among generations. And with that in mind, a couple weeks ago I wrote an open letter to the Turkish people about how responsibility is passed down. And I'd like to share it with you tonight. We sent it to all the Turkish newspapers. I have no illusions about their printing it. And I apologize to those who have heard the letter already today or this week, but I wanted to share it with you, those of you who have not. I said, today I write to you on a topic of great importance to both our nations. It is on a subject that many of you, especially the younger generation, may know little about because it concerns a chapter of world history that your government has expended enormous efforts to conceal. Turkey has been at the center of human civilization from Neolithic times to the present, and your arts, culture, and science have enriched the world. But interwoven with all of Turkey's remarkable achievements is a dark chapter that too many of today's Turks know little or nothing about. Were you aware that your grandparents and great-grandparents had many Armenian neighbors and friends? That 20% of the population of today's Istanbul was Armenian? Did you know that Armenians were well integrated into Turkish society as celebrated intellects, artists, craftsmen, and community leaders? Have you ever wondered what happened to the Armenians? Have you ever asked your parents and grandparents how such a large, industrious, and prosperous people largely vanished from your midst? Do you know why your government goes to such lengths to conceal this part of your history? Let me tell you a part of their story. The rest you must find out for yourselves. 99 years ago this month, in the dying years of the Ottoman Empire, the young Turk government launched a campaign of deportation, expropriation, starvation, and murder against the empire's Armenian citizens. Much of the Armenian population was forcibly removed to Syria, where many succumbed during brutal forced marches through the desert heat. Hundreds of thousands were massacred by Ottoman gendarmes, soldiers, and even ordinary citizens. By the time the slaughter ended in 1923, 1.5 million Armenians had been killed in what is now universally acknowledged as the first genocide of the 20th century. Their survivors scattered throughout the Middle East and the wider world, with some making their way to the United States and to Los Angeles. It is their grandchildren and great-grandchildren whom I represent as a member of the U.S. Congress. Theirs is a vibrant community, many tens of thousands strong, with schools, churches, and businesses providing a daily link to their ancestral homeland. And it is on their behalf that I urge you to begin anew a national conversation in Turkey about the events of 1915 through 1923. As a young man or woman in Turkey, you might ask, what has this to do with me? Am I to blame for a crime committed long before I was born? And I would say this: yours is the moral responsibility to acknowledge the truth and seek a reconciliation with the Armenian people that your parents and their parents could or would not. It is an obligation you have inherited, and one from which you must not shrink. For though we cannot choose our own destiny, we decide what to do about it, and you will be the ones to shape Turkey's future. At the end of World War II, Germany was a shattered nation, defeated in battle, and exposed as history's greatest war criminal. But in the decades since the end of the war, Germany engaged in a prolonged effort to reconcile with the Jewish people, who were nearly exterminated by the Nazis during the Holocaust. The German government has prosecuted war criminals, returned expropriated property, allied itself with Israel, and made countless apologies to the victims and to the world. Most important, Germany has worked to expunge the cancer of dehumanizing bigotry and hatred that gave rise to the Holocaust. This path of reflection, reconciliation, and repentance must be Turkey's path as well. It will not be easy. The questions will be painful. The answers difficult, sometimes unknowable. One question stands out. How could a nation that peaceably ruled over a diverse, multicultural empire for centuries have turned on one of its people with such ruthlessness that an entirely new word had to be invented to describe what took place? Genocide. As in Judaism and Christianity, the concept of repentance, or tawbah, is central to Islam. Next year will mark a century since the beginning of the genocide, and Armenians around the world will mourn their dead, contemplate the enormity of their loss, and ask why. Answer them, please, with words of repentance. Sincerely, Adam Schiff, Member of Congress. Let us hope in the days that follow, and as we approach the centennial of the genocide, that Turkey will answer that call with reflection, with repentance, with restitution, and with the unequivocal expression of remorse that accompanies so large a crime. And let us hope and pray, too, that the greatest nation on earth the United States of America stands up to its moral legacy and speaks plainly about genocide. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Congressman Schiff. I hope that letter is widely disseminated and read by everyone in Turkey. In Sacramento, leading our fight for the Armenian genocide recognition is another fine young man. Mike Gatto has introduced and had the genocide resolution passed in Sacramento for the past 4 years. And I'd like to invite Mike Gatto up to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Councilman Niarian, and thank you to all of you who again come together on this very somber night to commemorate the genocide. Because our communities commemorate the genocide every year, we are fortunate in this state and in this community to have leaders and a population who are very well educated on the stark facts of the great crime. We know that the Armenian genocide served as a model for Hitler. We know that the genocide resulted in a loss of homeland and a dispersion of Armenians all around the region and the world. And we can cite the horrific statistics about those who perished at the hands of the Ottoman Turks. However, as the fight for worldwide recognition continues, those of us in this room who seek to keep the memory alive after so much time has passed, we all face a difficult challenge. And that is making modern generations understand that for every death statistic, for every rape, for every corpse that we see in those old black and white pictures, that there was a real human involved, that there was a real family that suffered. This year, when the state of California commemorated the genocide at the Capitol, I did something a little different. I didn't cite statistics. I didn't talk about the interrelated history. And I didn't even preach about the obvious immorality. I simply got up on the floor and I told the stories of the great-grandparents of 2 of my staffers. You see, I wanted to personalize the genocide because as so much time has passed, we run the risk of it becoming an abstraction. Instead of the emotional, horrific story of inhumanity that it was. Now, during floor speeches in the legislature, my colleagues tend to be distracted. They're often huddled in conversations. And it's true, politicians don't always listen. But as I told these stories on the floor of the California legislature, stories of these families, real people, cast out in the desert, their clothes stolen, their women raped, their men tortured and killed, there was absolute rapt silence on the floor of the California legislature. You could hear a pin drop, and there were tears in some legislators' eyes. Now, I know I don't need to repeat those stories to you, because most of the people in the crowd here today have a similar story in their families. We all know parents who grew up without any aunts and uncles. We know families whose family trees are missing a whole lot of branches. But for educating others, it's really important to personalize it, to emphasize that the Armenian genocide involves stories of real people, real families, real suffering, but also of indomitable courage and survival. That courage and survival has always been needed and is needed even today because Armenia is located in a tough part of the world. And while it is a beautiful country with beautiful people, beautiful landscapes, beautiful scenery, Armenia has not been blessed with kind neighbors. Our vigilance is still necessary in the modern world. The events in Kasab, although not a genocide, are enough to make all of us extremely upset and to demand action. For all those of us who are familiar with the stories of 99 years ago, these events going on right now they hit very close to home. We worry, and we're right to worry. We're worried about every life lost, and we're worried about things spiraling out of control. Another thing has happened in the last few weeks, and that is the comments of Mr. Erdogan. When after 99 years pass, but the Prime Minister of Turkey is unwilling to offer more than just condolences, we get upset, and we demand action. We do not see condolences as something that is adequate and appropriate acceptance of responsibility for the great international crime that had been committed. And when ethnic Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh try to form a free republic, but Armenia's geopolitical enemies try to foil self-determination, we get upset and we demand action. Now, I have introduced a resolution called AJR 32 that expresses the will of the state of California to our federal State Department to recognize Nagorno-Karabakh. Now, Baku is scared, so scared that I get calls from Baku criticizing me, saying some pretty harsh things. The government of Azerbaijan has hired expensive lobbyists in the state of California to fight my resolution. And for a long while this spring, it was doubtful if it would even come up for a vote. That's how strong their lobby is, even in the state of California. But I play to win. This is an important cause. And our Speaker, John Perez, is not Speaker John Boehner. And I am proud to say that AJR 32 to recognize Nagorno-Karabakh will be coming up for a vote on May 5, and I think it will pass. The largest state in the United States, the most American of America, 1/8 of the United States population, will recognize Nagorno-Karabakh. And I want to just thank all of you. So many people in this room wrote letters, met with my colleagues, talked with them about the issue, and helped in what I hope will be a great victory. So as we gather to commemorate the tragic events that began 99 years ago, and as we educate leaders in the public with personal stories, and as we join together to say never again, I'm very happy to say that so many people in this room are also attaching actions to our words. We're taking steps to make sure that never again, particularly in the modern world, is not just an empty phrase. May God bless all of you, and may God bless everyone who fights for justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman Gatto. I would like to introduce my co-chair to join me on the podium. We have a few short words, I promise you, and then we'll get into the more entertaining part of the audience, more entertaining part of the evening in just a moment. My co-chair, by the way, again, is Frank Quintero, tenure on the council. How long have you been on council? 13-year Glendale City Councilman. He still has a smile on his face. It's difficult to, year after year, present a speech on the genocide, but I did my best this year, and I hope I can convey some of what it means to me. We are here together again, gathered in the memory of 1.5 million innocent men, women, and children who were put to death, who were slaughtered by the Turks. We gather in a memorial service, not just for the lost individuals or the lost families or the lost villages, but for the entire Armenian people who were targeted for extinction, for obliteration by the Turks. And that's why it's called genocide, because the goal of the Turks was to wipe out the entire Armenian race by any and all means possible. And in 1915, the means were the end of a bayonet, a bullet to the head, hanging, marching into the desert. That's the way they did it in 1915. The Turks tried hard, but they did not succeed in wiping out the Armenians. there were some survivors, like my grandparents, who escaped, who rediscovered their identity, overcame the challenges of being left all alone in the world, not knowing their names, not knowing where they came from, and not knowing if they would ever have a next meal. The one thing they did know is that they would never, ever see their mother or father again. The perpetrators got away with their crimes against humanity. Boy, did they. The Turks to this day deny any role in the deaths, in the massacre of 1.5 million Armenians. And even to this day, the bloodthirsty Turks are hell-bent on destroying the Armenians. The attacks on the village of Kesab last month are clear evidence that the Turks did not learn. They committed a crime that went unpunished. So why not continue any chance they get to wipe out the Armenians? The Turks think since they got away with killing 1.5 million Armenians, who's going to care about a few thousand Armenians in Kesab? This is a prime example of how, if a crime goes unpunished, the criminal will continue to commit the crime over and over again. The Armenian cause, the High Tod, is to bring justice to the Turks and to make them pay for what they did to the Armenians. Each year, the voices of the ghosts of those who were slaughtered gets louder and louder, like a scene from an Edgar Allan Poe story. The Armenian victims' blood that splattered all over the hands of the Turks will not wash away. It will remain as a stain that shall be revenged one way or another. And the ghosts of the innocent Armenians speak not only to the Turks, but they also speak to each new generation of Armenians so that we never forget. There's an old saying, actually it's an old curse, and I mentioned it before in one of my previous speeches. It's a curse upon the Armenian people. In Armenian it goes, Aiskan charik, te moranan yevneren morvortik, tog vokhsh ashkar garta hayun nahadink. So translated, that means, if our new generation forgets or forgives without justice, let the whole world read about the destruction of the Armenian people. And as a child from Armenian parents, I can assure you that my first history lesson wasn't about George Washington chopping down the cherry tree. My first history lesson was about the genocide. And at every gathering, go to any Armenian community, the topic of discussion is the tragedy of the genocide. How we are going to be reborn and how we're going to get justice. Ով մարդկային արդարություն թող ես թքնեմ քո ջագարիդ. Council member and co-chair of this event, Frank Quintero.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be with you tonight. I'll be brief. We have a long and what I think is a wonderful program. I want to thank Mr. Gatto and Mr. Schiff for all that they're doing. So, 99 years, next year, 100 years. That's a long time, isn't it? That's a long time by American standards especially. But you know what? It really isn't a long time because this genocide took place in modern times. I've said it for many, many years. This took place in modern times with all of the documentation of the modern age. Newspapers, pictures, motion pictures, telegrams, and tonight, the wonderful presentation that we're going to have tonight, we're going to have a precise documentation of this human tragedy, and specifically the facts that they sure didn't exclude young kids. They didn't exclude children. Of course, they didn't exclude old people. They didn't exclude women. It was a systematic extermination. No one was spared. And the documentation we have tonight, I hope you have the opportunity to perhaps get a disc from the City of Glendale so that you can talk to people about it, and you don't need to talk to Armenians about it, talk to non-Armenians. We started this committee 13 years ago, and we were specifically interested in letting non-Armenians understand what took place, and that it isn't ancient history, that it happened in modern times, that the children, the grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren live here in the United States and dispersed throughout the world. So I hope you enjoy the program this evening. We've worked very hard to put it together. And I'd now like to introduce the mayor of the City of Glendale, who is in fact a native of Armenia and a testament to what that country produces and to what the United States of America produces. Zara Sinanian, the mayor of the City of Glendale.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Glendale. Dear friends, honorable dignitaries, reverend fathers, it's a pleasure and honor to have you here. It's a solemn occasion that we gather for, but it's very important that we show that 99 years after the genocide, we don't forget, that we remember, we commemorate, but we still remember. 99 years is a long time indeed, as my fellow council members have already mentioned. By now the wounds should have healed, but the wounds have not healed. The wound is still bleeding. We're seeking some kind of closure to the Armenian genocide, but none is coming, and I don't see one on the horizon, unfortunately. Despite the best efforts of our friends like Adam Schiff, our congressman, like our assemblyman Mike Gatto, we have a long fight ahead of ourselves. And it's not just a fight for historical justice. Now, Councilmember Nigerian touched upon a very important point. The lack of punishment, the lack of accountability has led Turkey to be emboldened, because to this day they don't even admit to the fact that the genocide happened. They perpetrated it, let alone apologizing for it. They're emboldened, and they're emboldened for a good reason. The genocide didn't happen in one day. It was a process. In the late 1860s and 70s, the Turkish government put down the self-defense of the Armenian town of Zeytun, although all they were doing, these people, were trying to defend themselves against a massacre. In the late 1890s, 1894 to 1896, the population of Western Armenia, of then Ottoman Empire, was subjected to a huge massacre, resulting in approximately 300,000 Armenian casualties in the Armenian heartland of Mush and Sasung. No punishment came. In 1809, massacre of 30,000 Armenians in Adana happened. No punishment came. The next logical step was, of course, the genocide itself. The genocide happened. Turkey hasn't been punished. It wasn't punished at the end of the war in 1918. And as a result, in 1920, the Turkish government, the Republican government, the government of the country that exists today, not the Ottoman Empire, perpetrated an aggression against then fledgling Republic of Armenia, resulting in hundreds of thousands of deaths in eastern Armenia and resulting in the loss of large chunks of eastern Armenia proper, including Mount Ararat. And what do we have happening today? Turkey is still unrepentant, remorseless. Turkey is blockading the Republic of Armenia. Turkey is blockading Republic of Artsakh. Their justification for it: how dare you Armenians defend yourselves and actually liberate a small, tiny portion of your homeland, which is the homeland of Artsakh, Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh. And they do this in broad daylight. They do this in the 21st century. Blockading a country is an act of war. And the only purpose to blockade a country is to starve it to death, whether it's economically, physically, in every sense. And Turkey is doing that to Armenia today. Turkey poses number one national security problem for the nation of Armenians not just the Republic of Armenia, because without the Republic of Armenia, and the Turks know this very well, our nation will not survive. And again, it's happening today. And Turkey is also the country, as was mentioned by several of the other speakers, that unleashed thousands of Islamic fundamentalists on Kesab, the last Armenian-speaking, Armenian-populated town left of what's historically Armenian Kilikia, Cilicia. So it's important for us to remember. It's important for us to stay determined, to stay strong, because, again, there's a long fight ahead of us. But today we're here also to celebrate the triumph of survival, of prospering, celebrate the opportunities that we have been given by this great country. So let's start the program. Before we start the program, I want to thank the two co-chairs, council members Quintero and Najarian, for the great work that they've done, our staff, our community members, everyone that was involved, and hopefully we have a very enjoyable evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Sinanyan. Our keynote speaker this evening is Maurice-Missack Kelechian. Mr. Kelechian is an electrical engineer, a pioneer entrepreneur in the field of IT technology and global high-tech business. He is an independent investigative researcher passionate about finding untold stories of courageous expressions and service to humanity by the U.S. government, its people, and the Near East Relief Organization that became the catalyst for the survival of hundreds of thousands of Armenian victims between 1915 and 1930. He speaks throughout the country, and we're very fortunate to have with us this evening Mr. Maurice-Missack Kelechian.
This is my story. My work is a homage to the unprecedented commitment of the executive and legislative branches of the US government, the determination of the American people, and the dedication of men and women from all over the world, united under the leadership of Near East Relief Organization, short for NER, to save millions of Armenians, Arabs, Greeks, Jews, Assyrian, Persians, and other minorities during the period of 1915 and 1930. January 1915, Talat Pasha, the Turkish Interior Minister, declares in the New York Times, there is room only for Turks in Turkey. The enemies have already identified. Greeks, Assyrian, Jews, and mostly Armenians are identified. On April 24, US Ambassador Morgenthau intercedes reports of great uneasiness over the treatment of Armenians. But most of all, in September, he sends the US State Department, destruction of Armenian race. You tell me, what does that mean in English when the word genocide was not coined then? Destruction of Armenian race in Turkey is progressing rapidly. Will you suggest to Cleveland Dodge, Charles Crane, John Mott, Rabbi Stephen Wise, and others to form a committee to raise funds and provide means to save some of the Armenians? Immediately, the US Department of State, under the leadership of James Barton, Cleveland Dodge, as his name, founded the American Committee for Armenian and Syrian Relief in 1915, 2 weeks after Ambassador Morgenthau's telegram to the State Department. And today, Barack Obama, our president, used American Committee for the American and Syrian Relief in 1915. The dawning of Near East Relief in 1918, the Committee of the Armenian and Syrian Relief was renamed and was now called American Committee for Relief in Near East. And in 1919, by the act of US Congress, the name of the American committees was incorporated into Near East Relief, NER. Children were waiting in the snow for admission in the orphan city, which is today's Gyumri, a daily scene from early morning until night. These were the ones. What happened to their parents? How come there are so many orphans? Rescued Armenian girls from harems in Near East relief homes. Near East relief ambulances going from house to house trying to collect the orphans. The faces of those who were not rescued. A snapshot, May 15, 1923, the nationalities of Near East relief orphans. Look at this. Armenian, over 72% were Armenians. Greeks were 13, miscellaneous 11, Syrian, meaning Lebanese Arabs, 1.9%, Assyrian 1.4%, Jewish under 1%. Yes, it was World War I. There was war. There were some orphans. But look at the percentage. Three consecutive presidents, President Wilson, US President Harding, and US President Coolidge. For 15 years, from 1915 to 1930, they advocated the Near East relief. Why? Show me today any American cause that has lasted for 15 years. I can name Afghanistan, Iraq. It didn't last continuously 15 years by 3 different presidents. Proclamations were made by President Harding, by President Wilson, by President Coolidge, and a campaign will start. A target was set, $30 million, a campaign. But the posters that they made were not just an artist's expressions. They were actually the real raped Armenian mother was really there. Look at it. The lady, the mother, the result of a rape. Look at the details. It's an actual photo of an Armenian survivor and her child in despair. The posters, there were no Armenians there. Look at this. You won't let me starve, will you? I am a little Shushan from Armenia. My home has been destroyed. Father was taken away. Mother starved because of, she gave me all the food. I am so hungry and cold. Thousands of other children are hungry. There it is. Uncle Sam's job. Armenia and Syria. Even bonds were supported by the survivors. They were considered symbol of patriotism to buy US bonds. Armenian Syria. Even the Statue of Liberty has changed. Her torch has become a sword. They shall not perish. The life of an Armenian child is in your hands. And if it need be, I will wrap it up with an American flag. This stamp buys out a meal for a starving Armenian. Uncle Sam, protecting Armenian orphans on the plains of Ararat with ruined churches in the back. There were no Armenians to do these campaigns. It was all pure American social history that the Americans and Armenians have forgotten. Celebrities come to the aid. Charlie Chaplin with the kid. Jackie Coogan, who played Uncle Fester later in the years in Addams Family. Here he is, collecting milk for starving children. YMCA and Tiganis were all, supporting to raise funds. Hollywood stars, Golden Rule dinner. Golden Rule was set up by President Calvin Coolidge, where all Americans will eat regular orphanage food, and the rest, the remaining money, they will donate it to Near East Relief. And here they are, Hollywood stars of the day, doing that. You can read Golden Rule dinner, and they're eating just orphanage food. Next. Motion pictures were produced by Near East Relief to raise funds. Some of them ravished Armenia. Even they created the children's story, Alice in Hungerland, in Wonderland was changed to Hungerland because of hunger in Armenia. The poster of ravished Armenia, Alice in Hungerland. We see Alice here in Armenia with American dress and, giving food to Armenians. Between 1919 and 20, there were 333,000 people fed daily. The original goal of $30 million was almost quadrupled to $120 million in today's dollar, worth about $2.8 billion. That's an enormous money of that time. Over 132,556 Armenian children scattered and placed in several orphanages across the region. Logistics challenges. American Near East Relief camels were moving, logistic stuff, food, grains. Near East Relief boats or ships were transferring it through the Atlantic all the way to Constantinople. Trains, 12 carloads of clothing, Michigan's effort to aid the Armenian survivor, nationwide effort. San Francisco, Secretary of Navy, Dr. Wilbur, 25 tons of bundled old clothing. It wasn't only the government. It wasn't only the consuls and the ambassadors. It wasn't only the US presidents. It wasn't only the State Department. They involved the kids. Look at this. Earning in America to give to in Armenia. They encouraged them to sell lemonade, fudge, popcorn, and peanuts, and do some other works, and to donate their cents to save Armenia. Look at this. Children with disabilities lined up to donate for Near East Relief with their little piggybacks in New Jersey. Show me a politician who would donate his clothes, like Mr. Brown in Seattle, and go back, after donating in Near East Relief, go back with a barrel. I'm showing this picture to show you how much America, across America and the world, was involved. From the smallest kid in California, all the way to Framingham in Massachusetts, an elderly and the youngest were helping. They were helping to become foster parents. 850 orphans in one picture. First ladies, Wilson, Harding, they were adopting Armenian children. Take a look at this one. Trachoma Hospital. Look at the line of kids in the orphan city lined out so that their eyelids will be opened and scraped so that trachoma won't blind them. Under American hospital, American doctors in Gyumri, look at the line, it still continue. Have you ever seen such a line in your life? Dr. Mabel Elliott, taking care. Award in one of the 36 Near East Relief hospitals. They taught Armenian ladies or girls who were studying in American colleges to be a little army against disease. These ladies didn't know anything, and they taught them to become immediate needed nurses. They gave them hope and courage. They even encouraged them to get married. They put them together, young 16, 17-year-old boys and girls, orphans, and they go and choose your spouses. The orphans were provided with vocational skills, tools so they can survive. They just weren't feeding them only. So they taught them in agriculture, farming, masonry, carpentry, mechanics, shoemaking, shipbuilding, bakery, tailoring, nursing, and barbering. Self-reliance, to knit their own, reknitting their feet of winter stockings. Singer machines were sent from the United States so they would learn how to tailor and sewing. Shoemaking. Binding books. Again, American brand singer. Relearning embroidery and Armenian tradition. Metalworking and forging for the boys. American farming methods. Tractors were sent to Armenia under Soviet rule, under the Bolsheviks. They worked until 1926-27. Bringing back the sense of accomplishment as they planted their own food, their own potatoes, their own cabbages. Even the younger boys, as carpenters, did these tricycles for the little ones, so they can ride and play. These wooden tricycles were made by the older carpenter boys. Ghazir. I spoken on this on CNN in 2005. This is the location where 1,400 Armenian girls lived under the Near East Relief Orphanage. What happens is, as they become 16-year-old, the only thing that they had to do, they were forced to leave the orphanages. And they were worried that girls at 16 age, if they left the orphanage, they would be susceptible for hard things that might happen to them. So what the only way they could do is just they become maids in houses and endanger their life. So Near East Relief thought of teaching them how to weave carpets. Here they are. This is the Ghazir where the girls are weaving the carpet. And they made the carpet, which Congressman Schiff actively is chasing it. This is President Calvin Coolidge, Mr. Finley from the Near East Relief. In 1925, the girls of the orphanage, they wove their dreams, their lost dreams in that carpet. There is love, dedication, loss of pain, loss of country, loss of housing, parents, sisters, brothers, woven in that carpet. Nobody can stop it from showing it. This is where I found exactly the building. This is the carpet in 1925, before December, before it was shipped to the White House. It was hanging from this. Look at the windows and the arches here. This is the same one I found in Ghazir. The same window, same arches where that carpet was hung from. These are 4 girls worked for 10 months to weave that carpet. This is 2 of them who met First Lady Coolidge. And she offered them to immigrate to the United States, and they said yes. So they were adopted by the 3rd First Lady too. So Wilson, Harding, Coolidge, all 3 First Lady adopted Armenian orphans. And this is one of the girls, Vartuhi Hovsepian, one of the orphans who worked on the rug in the White House after 60 years, June 6, 1986. This is in the White House, and this is the carpet. She's sitting on the carpet that she wove with her own hands. As if the Interior Minister was not what he said. The following Republican Turkey followed up the unfinished work. December 14, 1920, Near East New York Bureau reports, Kemalist instructions, all Christians must evacuate Turkish territory. It looks the same thing to me. No room, only room, So, Americans and Armenians shared destiny in Near East. They were kicked out of Turkey. Yes, Near East Relief was kicked out of Turkey. Henry Justin Allen, governor of Kansas, later on a U.S. senator, near offices and workers being harassed and seen as Western agents. Sounds familiar, right? American investment and assets confiscated by the Turkish government, just as that happens to the Armenians. American physicians were required to be licensed by Turkish medical institutions to be eligible to practice in Turkey, basically putting pressure on the Americans so that they don't help the Armenians. They needed Turkish license for American professional doctors to operate. And this is exactly what happened. This is the map of Turkey. This is a Near East relief map where American and Armenians had to leave Turkey. So they moved into Armenia, Tiflis, and northern Iran, Syria, Mesopotamia, Palestine, and also Greek and Romania. So they had to get out before they were operating in Turkey. Once again, Armenian children being deported. 22,000 children got moved to Syria and Lebanon. Papa Kunstler took care of it. It was spearheaded by Americans, but it was an international. Australia, orphanage in Antilles. In today's Antilles, where the church is where this orphanage is. This is in Antilles, under the Australian flag. Same location, Easter celebration in the Katelikosat of Antilles in 2013. Orphanage of Bird's Nest in Sidon. Look at it. This is how it was, and this is what I found it in 2007. Look at the details. The same palace was used as an orphanage. Dr. Stanley Kerr, Nahar Ibrahim, he took care of 634 orphan children. Uprooted from their homeland, abandoned their wealth, and living in little teen shacks. But once again, NER manages to bring back the smile to children. Orphan City in Gyumri, the largest orphanage in the world, 30,000 orphans. Where are the parents? What happened to the parents? 3 meals a day, comb, wear, grain, soup. They had to be provided by Near East Relief. Orphanage a la Turkey. While Americans and worldwide folks were helping the Armenians in orphanages, the Turkish style was Turkifying them. Cemal Pasha and Halide Edip in Antura, where I located the orphanage, they were Turkified. The fifth point in United Nations Act of Genocide is forcefully changing nationality of a child to another one is considered genocide without blood, without sword. Armenian orphans were the boys were circumcised, forced to change their names and culture into Turkish, trained to become Ottoman soldiers. But once they lost the war in 1918, immediately, first meeting in Antura of Berta Morley of Near East Relief and Major Stephen Trowbridge of the American Red Cross. Stand by them. This is an amazing map. Read here. Located in New York City, American Committee for Armenian and Syrian Relief. Those are the same words President Obama used in his April 24 message today. But what is this? The dotted lines are where the money came from, and the solid lines are where the money went. So, look at the countries. India, China, Burma, Thailand, Philippines, Japan, South Korea, Hawaii, Australia, New Zealand. Have you ever thought that these thousands of miles away they were giving money to save Armenians? Again, in South Africa, in Liberia, in Madagascar, in Brazil, in Panama Canal, in Chile, in Argentina. It is mind-boggling. All the went to New York City, and from New York it went to Constantinople, Tbilisi, Yerevan, in Tehran, in Baghdad, in Lebanon, in Syria, and in Egypt. The world got together, spearheaded by the Americans, philanthropy. Near East Relief was not just an organization. It is the roots for the Marshall Plan, Truman's Point 4 program. U.S. Peace Corps was all based on Near East Relief. USAID today was based on that. United Nations Development Program, again on Near East Relief. Look at the countries. US, Canada, Australia, England, Cuba, Switzerland, Danish, French, China, Germany, Sweden, Czechoslovakia, Belgium, Greece, Philippines, South Korea, Japan, and obviously Armenia. In 1917, a royal decree issued by Sharif of Mecca, Hussein bin Ali, declaring Armenians a protected people of Islam. The Syrian sheikhs, with the Danish Karen Yepe and Misak Melkonian, Armenian, rescued Armenian women and children from Bedouins, Kurds, and Turks. Britain today denies, but in 1917, this is a British poster, look at it. It's got the whole Armenian history in one poster. Armenian refugees, Lord Mayor's Fund, 600,000 men, women, and children massacred. Armenia, 1.2 million deported and their homes destroyed by the Turks and Kurds. Help us to save the remnants of this brave and persecuted people. I don't have to say anything. The Canadians, they shipped grain from northern United States, Northern America, all the way to Louisiana to be shipped across. Russian help in Armenia as well, Hovannes Tumanyan. Even the Pope blessed Near East Relief and gave 550,000 lirs at that time. All these countries, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, Egypt, Cyprus, Greece, Palestine, welcomed thousands of Armenian refugees and gave them safe haven. But not all Near East Relief volunteers and employees returned home. Over 30 of them died with their orphans. Even they got typhus from their own victims that they were taking care of, and they lost their lives. And every worker was given a medal. Look at this medal. For faith and selfless service to humanity. Look at it. 1915, Near East Relief. And on the other side, the Islamic Crescent, the Persian Lion, Cedar of Lebanon, Christian Cross, and right in the center, Mount Ararat and Noah's Ark, under the Near East Relief Silver Star. Can any Armenian come up with such a logo? This is not an Armenian newspaper. This is not a nationalistic thing. This is American press, American documentation in Gumri, where it says Near East Relief. These are 5,000 orphans lined up to say that you saved us. And look at this one. America, we thank you. Genocide Memorial in Yerevan, Armenia. So, it was created in 1915, just in time during the Armenian Genocide. So, NER organization, Near East Relief organization, and the Armenian Genocide both turned 99 years old. As I did similar presentation at USC, a lady sent me an email that I would like to read it to you because it gives the whole picture. In 1915, my grandfather was executed by hanging at the age of 45. And my father ended up in an orphanage of Antillas in Lebanon and was cared by the Near East Relief. I grew up with unbelievable stories, constant reminders of pain and suffering of the Armenians who lost everything. To date, a silent Holocaust haunts my generation. The helplessness of whole nation and the indifference of the world and its denial of what had happened to my father and millions of others like him makes us feel like raped victims, violated, ashamed for not doing enough to stop it, ridiculed for making up stories, and blamed for provoking the rape. Dear Misak, your work showed me the courageous faces of the survivors, told me of a world that knew about the Armenian Holocaust, made me proud of the bold actions taken by my government to stop the suffering of victims and the generosity and compassion of countries and people who sacrificed their own lives, their own comfort, their finances, and their political power to help a whole nation have a second chance. Your story gave me back my dignity as an Armenian American, and more importantly, gives me hope that there is a world out there who is in silence, is working on honoring the history of my people and my ancestors. The questions today for us is how to maintain the integrity of our historical tragedy. We don't have to prove to anybody that the Armenian genocide happened. The world already knows that. The American government, the US State Department, with their telegrams, with their ambassadors, knew that. The American people knew that because they campaigned and raised money. They were there. They lived it through the Near East relief campaigns, through their kindness and sacrifices. Today, in his address on the Armenian Remembrance Day, President Obama made a historic statement, a direct quote from my presentation, acknowledging the US commitment and involvement in helping the Armenians, survivors, and praising with pride the humanitarian efforts undertaken by the Americans and their government to save countless Armenians. However, he once again shamelessly failed to name the perpetrators and why they did it. In order for us to make the memories of our ancestors beyond the tears and the tragedy, we need to make the tragedy not just an Armenian one, but a tragedy for the humanity at large. The US government got heavily involved in the act of philanthropy because its representatives understood, and I quote, "The destruction of the Armenian race is proceeding rapidly. The Americans, Australians, African, Dutch, and Middle Eastern Near East workers worked selflessly and died caring for the orphans because they related to their suffering. During the genocide, some Turks tried to save Armenian lives, refusing to participate in the monstrous act against humanity. More importantly, Turkish academics are now themselves acknowledging the truth inside Turkey." In the words of my friend Robert Fisk, the international reporter of The Independence, on March at the international conference, he said, I quote, "The vital element that was missing in the atrocious argument was not the identification of the victims, but the comprehension that the victims were human beings, just like you and me. If there is a message that will last for hundreds of years, perhaps it has to be focused on the absolute conviction that these people were our people. Their fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters were our fathers and mothers and sisters. If a high school, multicultural choir can relate so beautifully to the Armenian spirit and its story, we as a people should be able to help the American, British, Turkish, Israeli, and the Australian government see themselves in the Armenian orphans, the victims, and the survivors of the Armenian genocide. Thank you very much.
Please welcome the United Choirs of the Armenian Youth Association of California and the Armenian Society of Los Angeles, conducted by Michael Avadisian, soloist soprano, Nune. Genjoyan, tenor, Suren Mekirchian.
the Armenian Society of Los Angeles, the Arana High, a Glendale organization, I might add. So while our next act is preparing the stage, we want to thank the committee members. As I mentioned earlier, the committee members, some of them have been with us for 13 years. It's been a long time that we've worked on what is in fact the Week of Remembrance. So I want to start by mentioning the original committee members: Ara Aharonian, Peter Darajian, Burj Karapetian, Artin Manoukian. And now I want to mention the other committee members that have to put up with us, the original committee members, and do a very good job of, and throughout the years they've done a very good job of sort of changing things and of keeping these commemoration events. Yasmin Elpey, Lilia Avagian, Armik Avadisian, Arlet Derhovanesian, Carmen Liberidian, Talar Malakian, Maria Shahakan, and then the city staff members that work very, very hard, and that's Dan Bell and Elizabeth Gregorian, who works at the library, and of course GTV6, that, as I mentioned earlier, will be in fact preparing a DVD, a disc that you can use to distribute and show to your friends. And then a special thanks to Jiro Habashian, our stage manager, who also does a wonderful job along with Dan Bell. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to put these presentations on. A lot of thought goes into speaking or to picking the speakers, and we really appreciate all your help.
And the following organizations have helped us by sponsorship. First, the City of Glendale, California, the Armenian Council of America, the Armenian National Committee of America, Glendale Chapter, the Armenian Rights Council, the Armenian General Benevolent Union, Glendale Arts, the Armenian Relief Society, the AGBU Young Professionals of Los Angeles, the Asparez Armenian Daily Newspaper, the Nor-Or Weekly, the Masis Weekly, the Armenian Observer, the Glendale News Press, Nor Hayastan, Alco Printing, the Crescenta Valley Weekly, AABC TV, ARTN Television, and Horizon TV. Big round for our sponsors. We couldn't get the word out without them. And I did neglect earlier to announce that we have from State Senator Carol Liu's office, Talin Mangioglu, and from our County Supervisor, Michael Antonovich, we have his representative, Rita Haji Manoukian. Thank you. The show will continue.
Please welcome the Hamazkayin Niari Dance Group with artistic directors Catherine Hayrabedian and Ari Libaridian.
Ուր էիր Աստված, երբ խենթացավ լքված մի ողջ ժողովուրդ, ուր էիր Աստված, երբ աղերսանքը մեր մարեց անհաղորդ, ուր էիր Աստված, երբ ավերում էին Չքնաղ մի երկիր Ուր է իր Աստված Երբ խենթացած ցավից աղաչում ենք ամեն Աստված Երբ արդարության աչքերը կապվեց Ուր է իր Աստված Երբ շուրթերին ազգիս աղոթքը սառեց Ուր է իր Աստված Եվ փրկության կանչով երկինքը ցնցվեց Լուր է իր Աստված Երբ խաչերին գանված աղոթում ենք ամեն Կարոտ հոգում Չկար ուրիշ հավատ և սեր դու իմ տեր Ես քեզ հավատում և աղերսում էի ինչպես մի անխելք Ուր է իր Աստված Երբ հոշոտում էին չքնաղ մի երկիր Ուր է իր Աստված Երբ հույսերս կտրած աղոթում ենք ամեն Ուշտուր մեզ Աստված Որ ալեկոց կյանքի ծովում չկորչենք Սիրտ դուր մեզ Աստված Որ տառապանքի շուրթերը ջնջենք Լույս դուր մեզ Աստված Որ խավարում այս գորշ ճամփանը շմարենք Հույս դուր մեզ Աստված Որ շուրթերով չորցած քեզ գտնենք նորից ամեն
Please welcome Alyine Amirayan.
Good evening, and thank you very much for that. It truly is an honor for me to be a part of tonight's 99th commemoration of the Armenian Genocide. I dedicate my performance tonight to all those that we lost, to those who survived, their families, their children, their grandchildren, and to the future of Armenia. Also, with a heavy heart, I dedicate tonight to all those that are suffering right now, today, in Kesap. It is unbelievable that such atrocities against humanity still continue. But I know that we Armenians will survive and we will thrive. As William Saroyan once said, I should like to see any power of the world destroy this race, this small tribe of unimportant people, whose wars have all been fought and lost, whose structures have crumbled, literature is unread, music is unheard, and prayer no more answered. Go ahead, destroy Armenia. See if you can do it. Send them into the desert without bread or water. Burn their homes, their churches. Then see if they will not laugh, sing, and pray again. For when two of them meet anywhere in the world, see if they will not create a new Armenia. With that, I would like to invite to the stage now two of my daughters to sing a song with me that we do as a mother-daughter trio. So please help me welcome my daughters Lara and Carmen. Աշխարհում սիրել եմ քեզ իման քինիմ լուսերես մինչև երբախ մինչև երբ իմ սիրտը պիտի վարես աշխարհում սիրել եմ քեզ իման քինիմ լուսերես մինչև երբախ մինչև երբ Im sirde bidi vares Tu esim serenan mar Abrum emies kez hamar Hazar dari găspasem Miain te calsanuja Tu esim serenan mar Abrum emies kez hamar Hazar tari găspasem Miain te casanuja Մեր ցերքից կանցնեն գերթան օրերը ջահելության Սրանենք անքին ընկեր ժամնե մեր ուրախության Մեր ցերքից կանցնեն գերթան օրերը ջահելության ջան Սերանենք անքինը ժամնե մեր ուրախության Դու ես իմ սերն անմար ապրում եմ ես քեզ համար Հազար տարի կսպասեմ միայն թե քաս անուշար Դու ես իմ սերն անմար ապրում եմ ես քեզ համար Հազար տարի կսպասեմ միայն թե քաս անուշար Լեյլի սիրո նման իմ սերն է գրակ վարման Առանց սեր թատարկ սրդով չեմ ապրի ոչ մի վարյան Լեյլի սիրո նման իմ սերն է գրակ վարման Առանց սեր թատարկ սրդով չեմ ապրի ոչ մի վարյան Դու ես իմ սերն անմար ապրում եմ ես քեզ համար Հազար տարի կսպասեմ միայն թե քաս անուշար Դու ես իմ սերն անմար ապրում եմ ես քեզ համար Հազար տարի կսպասեմ միայն թե քաս անուշար Հազար տարի կսպասեմ միայն թե քաս անուշար
ladies and gentlemen. What a wonderful dance group that was. And I have to admit that I was crying like a little baby when they were doing Ure Rastvadz. It really was touching. The choir that we heard before them was just to be clear, it was a combined choir of the Armenian Society of Los Angeles and the Armenian Youth Association of California. And that's how they had such a great sound. So again, thank you to our choir. We are going to be closing our program, ladies and gentlemen, with a final work by Alyine Amirayan.
Եվ մեր երկրեն փախտացան չգնաղ երգիր մեր Արմենիո երբ փայլայում քաղցրի գորե երբ Ծարն իր պույն թարնա, երբ որ ծարերն հագնին դերեն, ծանգամ դեսնեն զիմգիլիկ աշխար, որ ինձ է դուր արեն, ծանգամ Desne zimgilik yaşkar Oriz yedurare Hasak mı gamergen atmeç Ուրամենահինից գավադի հասակ ուր հոգինի դեչի շատակած յուր գարոդի հոր ժամ կնարս իմ ծրդանա սիրույն ալով վերջին պարե Երտամն չէ զիմգիլիկ աշխար որ ինձ է դուր արել Երտամն չէ զիմգիլիկ աշխար որ ինձ է դուր արել
Ladies and gentlemen, the 100th year of the Armenian Genocide begins tonight. I wish you all a very good evening. I hope you enjoyed the program. Thank you. We hope to see you soon. Good night.